Media organizations are betting big on AI, and 87% of media leaders say they plan to invest in AI and automation this year. Stay ahead of the curve with Arc XP, a CMS that harnesses the power of AI with built-in features and configurable integrations. Arc XP's AI-powered tools help you create content faster and distribute more efficiently, while keeping humans in the loop to control quality. Use an AI editor to assist with repetitive day-to-day tasks like translation, summarization, story tagging, and social post creation, allowing your team to spend more time creating engaging content. You can also create custom AI models and databases that better understand and organize your unique content, powering more accurate suggestions and recommendations. Plus, Arc XP makes it easy to build custom integrations with AI-powered tools that support your unique needs. Customers have built integrations with AI tools like ChatGPT in just days, so you can continue to innovate and adapt as your strategy evolves. Ready to learn more about AI and why the world's leading media brands partner with Arc XP?
Welcome to Broadcaster Survival or Reinvention Plan, local content, smart tech, and bold innovation. Please welcome to the stage Joe Croney, Stephanie Slagle, and Michael Newman.
Good afternoon, all. It's great to be here at our first full day of NAB together. We have a great session, and I'm joined by some amazing leaders in the industry as we talk about a broadcaster survival plan. That's going to be a little bit of a mix of local content, smart tech, and bold innovation. Before diving in, I want to give a little context as to why we invited Michael and Stephanie to come be with us on the stage today. In this industry, we're blessed with some of the best storytellers in the world. Many of the tools, technologies we see at NAB are to enable those storytellers to share their vision. But transformation, real transformation, requires more than a compelling story and narrative. It requires follow-through. It requires systems. It requires OKRs. It requires leaders who are not just talking the talk of digital reinvention, but walking the walk, restructuring teams, adopting new metrics, looking for newsroom workflows and new content, and challenging that gravitational pull of legacy models. That's why we're here today. Stephanie and Michael represent something rare in media: leadership with vision and execution. They've stepped beyond traditional broadcast mindset and are building a future and a business that can thrive with a new platform for growth. So, as we get into it, this hits very close to home for Arc XP. Our mission begins with a true belief in the power of storytelling to change the world. Arc XP is actually the platform the Washington Post built for itself almost a decade ago as they were transforming from print to digital. And we really do believe in the power of storytelling. What we offer is a digital platform that's innovative to help achieve a specific result. And that result we're looking for is to propel all of you to be modern media businesses that are sustainable, independent, and offer aggressive growth. If you think about those terms in magenta there, that's not how everyone would describe the world of media today. When we go around and talk to customers, they're seeking for that sustainability. They're seeking for how do they get new revenue models as they go beyond linear and go to digital. So that's going to be part of the context for the conversation today. So today is not just about ideas, it's about outcomes, and I know that Michael and Stephanie are going to share those with us. So jumping in, audience first. There's a lot of internal challenges in how you reach your audience, but I'm interested to hear what do we want from local journalism today? And Michael, I think you've got a couple stats to share.
I mean, kicking off, it's pretty stark. Most people are using social media to stay in touch with their communities and their local news. When you think of the job that needs to be done by local news and local broadcasters, the statistics are really showing us that younger people rely on those social media platforms more and more to be able to really drive that. So listening to our community is actually a really important piece of the first part of the puzzle, is understanding where they're at and what they're looking for at the current moment.
So we've been talking about social media for a couple decades now here at NAB. What's different about this metric compared to how you've thought about leading your newsroom in the past as you go to that digital audience?
Yeah, I think for a long time we always thought of ourselves as the destination where people need to end up in order to have the local news and those kinds of things. I think that more and more as we're looking into what is happening, people aren't aging into news anymore on the broadcast platforms. They're continuing to use the social platforms. They're continuing to see the news on these different platforms as they're getting older. And so as that happens, we need to figure out how to reach those people and how to continue to do that job that is so important to us and that we've been doing as broadcasters now for decades. We have to figure out how to do that and reach those people. They are asking for this type of content all the time, and they don't know that we're attempting to produce it. It's a real gap right now. This is another statistic that I think is really a big one, and this comes from Magid research, is customers aged 25 to 54, they're using YouTube weekly, and they're using it more and more frequently for local news. We see this all the time. We put our local news onto YouTube, and people are watching it there more and more. We have it on our own platforms. We have it on linear. We really are seeing that shift of people looking for this kind of content on YouTube. And so how do we reach those people and then understand there's different storytelling happening on YouTube today? So how do we use that type of storytelling and apply it to our local storytelling and to our local, to what the local audience needs in order to have local news and have that local community engagement that's going on from a day-to-day basis?
So you've got the metrics showing the eyeballs are shifting. I know that's true when I look at my kids and where they're getting news. Certainly YouTube is probably one of their top screen time hour consumption when I look at my teenagers. But Stephanie, as you think about the actual audience, as you try to reach them in that new world, what are some of the key pillars?
So we've done a tremendous amount of research over the last couple of years about our audiences, just trying to understand how we can serve them the best. And so we've from multiple sources that we've pulled in, what we've circled around is they want relevance, trust, and speed. And this is vastly different from the way that we are aligned, our newsrooms are aligned. And so we've taken an opportunity to say, let's go take a deep breath, go all the way back up to the top and focus on what they're looking for. And what we know they're looking for is local community. That's where we thrive. That's where we make a difference, is local community. And so if we can give relevance to the space that they live in and the trust that we bring, and then we can do it quickly, the platform doesn't matter as much as it previously has.
And so speed's something, there's a lot of solutions here at NAB for. If you think about the speed of the control room and getting content out on linear, that feels pretty tight and fast to me. Like, I love the energy when breaking news happens, and you see your team rallying around that. How is this speed a little different than maybe what you've had to lead in the past?
I think the speed, this is entirely different because speed, we used to corner the market on speed. Right? We used to be the ones that could get to the event faster than anybody else. We don't have that anymore, right? Because anyone can go live on almost any social platform immediately. And so we have to think about speed differently. We have to think about speed. Also, as journalists, we have to think about speed with relevance and trust, not just speed, right? So this is a really critical piece of what we do. Getting there quickly and getting there accurately is important to us, but making sure that we're doing it with our journalistic integrity intact. It's really important to us.
So that feeds into that trust angle. How do you think about your traditional newsroom, your anchors, your personalities contributing to trust in that world where anyone's popping out their phone and breaking the news?
Yeah, we actually have a really good example of this. couple of years ago, there was a shooting at Michigan State University, and in Michigan, in our Detroit station, there was a lot of misinformation because obviously people are on the scene, they're seeing things, and these are just the general population, right? They're seeing things, they're leaping to conclusions, their emotions are at an all-time high, and there was a lot of information out in the ecosystem that was not accurate. And so it took our journalists, who were on the scene quickly, and definitely speed was important, but it took our journalists to say, hey, everybody, we need to take a breath, and we need to calm down until the facts start to come to light. And so it was a moment where our anchor took an opportunity to address, you're hearing things in the space right now, and many of them are not true, and so please hold down. And so in those times, it's incredibly important that we hold on with our journalistic integrity and show audiences that it's incredibly important to them.
Fantastic. And so as you balance those pillars, Michael, what did that mean for the workflows in your newsroom, given those objectives?
Yeah, in a big way, and I think that example of that tragedy that really happened shows the best of our newsrooms, right? When that kind of tragedy happens, everyone is on the ground, everyone is going quickly, as quickly as possible, to get the most relevant information on air as it's happening, as the information becomes available. But it shows how amazing our broadcast systems are built to be able to get on air quickly. We were on air within probably a half an hour of the event with real trusted people. We had people on the ground doing multifaceted reporting, talking to people, calming people down, telling what happened, giving updates from the officials that were on the ground. Our broadcast systems do that really well. Then going to, all of a sudden you've got to start thinking about, okay, we need to also have this on other platforms as well. We have to have this on our websites, on our linear, CTV channels. We need to have this on social and all of those different places. Again, during a big event like that, that's really easy. We have massive amounts of manpower doing that. But taking a step back and looking at it a little bit, we realize that we have, in certain ways, 3 different newsrooms doing 3 different processes for this. And so rather than thinking about the story first, we tend to actually then have the platform first, and we're building the stories around the platform itself.
And I would actually say that in a breaking news situation, the story first happens naturally.
Yes.
So in a breaking news situation, like the Michigan State shooting, everybody, I always say I love to watch our newsrooms during breaking news because it's like this muscle, these muscles just flex and they go, right? And they're all working together. And no one is thinking about the platform, they're only thinking about telling that story. And that's so critical. When the platform first mentality kind of gets in the way is in the normal days, right? In the normal days when there's not major breaking news and everyone's kind of, in a comfortable zone and doing their thing, then what, like Michael alluded to, we have 3 newsrooms. And I don't know many of us amongst us that can afford 3 newsrooms, right? To have 3 fully functioning newsrooms. And that's really what it ends up being, is you've got this newsroom who's focused on broadcast, you've got this newsroom who's focused on getting the best digital information out to somebody, and then we've got this new one that cropped up, in the last handful of years, it's focused on streaming. And so when you think about, if we've got all of these incredible individuals focused on a platform first, serving a platform first, then we have created 3 separate newsrooms. And if we can get our journalists thinking more about the story first, so more like a breaking news without all the adrenaline and stress, because no one could run in that world the entire time. But if we could get our newsrooms, and mainly if we could get our technology to support the story first, because what replaces the technology during a breaking news situation is adrenaline. They are just rushing and raging and getting things through because they're so driven to get that story out. But if we can get the technology to replace that adrenaline and give them something that helps them get to market focused on the story instead of the platform, then we'll re-rack our newsrooms better.
Yeah, that's definitely, having spent almost 2 decades building those technology platforms, spent, a long time on one of the most used rundown tools in the industry, so I
Yep.
know linear really well.
Yep.
And when I was there, I saw this emerging, where our main customers around the globe were starting with a very small digital newsroom that kind of grew out of the broadcast side.
Yep.
And they weren't coming together. And even though I heard leaders speaking about story first, speaking about a story-centric workflow, in practice, I didn't see it happening. And actually, when I would do feature demonstrations of new ideas, they kind of fell flat. It felt like the industry wasn't ready for it. I wonder if how much the economics are now driving that to a head in this moment, where we can achieve this kind of transition from platform first to story first.
I think it's absolutely an economic issue, because for a while we had the ability to run 2 newsrooms financially, right? And we kind of I want to say fooled ourselves into thinking they were integrated, because all of our verbiage was integrated, and we would talk about digital first, and we would talk about making sure that story first and all that. But the truth of it was the technology wasn't allowing for that to be, and frankly the employees too, because if there's a world where I'm in this digital world and I know everything there is to know about it, and I have value because of that. So now the economics are, I think where it hit me a couple of years ago was the realization that we couldn't add a third one. Like, I could afford maybe to have 2 newsrooms. I definitely could not afford a third one with the streaming, right? So I figure if okay, now I'm realizing, now I have to look this in the face, that if I go down the path that I'm going with streaming and build an entirely third set of newsroom where everyone is only focused on streaming and they know everything there is to know about streaming, that's not sustainable. So it's not as much about not being able to afford the second one as that third one is looking us down the eyes and going, that's way too expensive.
I think it's economics. I think it's our audience is demanding it. They're asking for the type of content that we're putting on our broadcast channel, maybe slightly different packaging, but they're asking for that type of content, that kind of community first engaging content, and they're asking for it in a way that we're in the community providing it to them in only the way that we can.
Yeah.
And I think there's a technology side to this as well. For the longest time, on the digital side, we had CrowdTangle, and we had these ways of telling stories online that really played a game, and it wasn't core to the job that needs to be done as local broadcasters.
Yeah.
It wasn't telling the local news story. So I think that's first half of the technology thing is we're learning that, hey, we can't all chase the same story anymore. The alligator in Miami only works in Miami. The other piece of it is right now we have the technology and we have the partners who are all working together where we can actually start building a story-first workflow. And I think that that's the big piece for me particularly is it used to be the technology we needed to have an expert on streaming. We needed to have an expert on social. We needed to have an expert on digital publishing. And we needed to have a broadcast EP who only knew broadcast. And quite frankly, I think now we know we're reaching the audience. I think we can start molding those together to tell the best possible story across all the platforms at the same time.
So what was the hard part of going from talking the talk, so to speak, of you knew you couldn't establish that third one, to the practical reality? Like, as a business leader, how did you identify inefficiencies? What did that look like? Like, Michael, I feel in the last couple of years, that was a pressure point for you in your organization, whether it was from a people perspective, a technology perspective, IT budget. What does that really look like for the audience?
And starting with those big slides, right, is like, oh my gosh, and this is when it really struck me, is we happened to be in the field talking to our community in one of these research panels, and they were asking for a 24/7 local news channel available to them that they could turn on their TV. And they turned around and we were like, oh wait, we actually have that. It's like, but you don't know that we have that. That's a real gap there. They're asking for this in such so much. And so how do we close that gap between our local news product and what they're looking for on the flip side? And so on the technology side, it's really about we create this great broadcast news product, or we have created this great broadcast news product, but we're looking at a completely different paradigm that's been shaped by YouTube and people who have grown up digitally native all this time. So how do we take the lessons learned from these digital natives that are no longer turning on, using their antennas or plugging in their cable boxes? How do we take what they're looking for and apply it to local news in such a way that they will seek it out, and actually when they do find it, they feel complete because that's what they're looking for to begin with. So that's the next step here.
And I think from a technological standpoint, it is unbelievably, like inside the bill, it's unbelievably daunting because there are so many. We never really thought of it on the digital side. We did, but we think of what we have as a tech stack, right? Things can be pulled in and out. But on the broadcast side, it's very different. And there are pieces of technology and hardware that have been in place for many, many years that seemingly can't be adjusted, right? And so it was daunting to look at that and think, all right, but how might we get from here to there? And then I think the other insanely important part of it that we've worked on for the last 6 months or so is the human side of it too, right? Getting feedback from our news teams. We have such incredible journalists who are out and they get amazing things done every single day, sometimes in spite of our technology, right? They still get it done. And so all of us, our team, leadership team, all went into the field with them starting, I think you guys went out last fall, and then I went out in December. So starting in the fall, we started going out and watching them and understanding some of the challenges that they're not even raising a flag that they have as challenges because they're like, yeah, I don't have time to deal with you. I just got to get this stuff done. And so really understanding what they're dealing with and then having them come along with us in the journey, to technology, the technology journey. It's important that they come with us because otherwise we'll end up right back with them trying to figure it out the old way.
So it sounds a little bit more like hearts and minds of the newsroom
yes.
and editorial as opposed to setting OKRs and
yes.
here's the key result I'm
yes.
going to measure.
Because we could do that ourselves next week, have it done, lay it out, push it out, and be done. And by the way, we've done that many times over the years, right? Where we've said, hey, this is what we're doing, guys, and really making sure that we're solving a problem, I think is probably what it comes down to. Really making sure that we are solving a problem that they have. Even if they don't have the 10-year vision that we're working towards, they still know that this thing is really annoying, and how do we get from to? And so that's been a really critical piece for us.
We know, we rolled out the ARC CMS product in 2019 to everyone. Mm-hmm. It is amazing when you get the right technology at the right time, how everyone adopts it, and it's a multiplier, in terms of content creation, in terms of content product at the end of the day. We did that in 2019. We all of a sudden saw a massive growth right before COVID, thank goodness, right? I couldn't imagine having been not on ARC at that point. We're hoping to do a very similar thing here with our broadcast.
But hopefully not another COVID though, right?
No COVID,
no
please.
More COVID.
We're done with that. But thinking about how we can multiply our people that are out there right now. Mm-hmm. Thinking about something as simple, we identified, because we went out really quickly, that we had some compression things that we could immediately implement inside of our newsrooms to speed up the process to get things out the door. And those are the little things, like the big things that make the journalists, the reporters, the cameramen, their jobs easier, quicker, less tedium, less time spent in a van, less time spent in an editing booth, more time in the field talking to people, getting unique content. That's really the multiplying effect that we're looking to get.
Timing definitely feels like the moment is right for that technology, the market, the audience, and your business needs to come together. And one of the privileged positions ARC is in is we see a wide range of newsrooms, whether it's broadcast, traditional newspapers, online, and of the thousands of outlets that run on ARC, we see a common theme. And we haven't talked about it yet. The pre-roll had it a bit, but AI is definitely out there and part of the conversation. And one of the conclusions we're hearing from executives in the media industry is that if your content can easily be replaced by AI, it's probably not valuable enough. And when I think about your story of going for local content, it's less about commoditization, because the heart of that story isn't something that's been taken from a wire and repackaged by everyone in the same way. It is really some novel journalism that takes place. And so that balance between what AI can do for us, along with the humans in the loop, so to speak, I think that's the unique thing that will avoid us from a marketplace which says the marginal cost of creating that story goes to zero, and therefore the marginal value becomes zero. So that's something that we're seeing quite a bit of. And I think it's a good bridge into our next topic of internal workflows. So with the audience lens in mind, kind of the little AI there, the business challenge, Stephanie, what did you discover about your internal workflow beyond what we've talked about so far?
Wow. It's been a lot. I think probably the biggest realization, in addition to the 3 newsrooms, like that probably hit me pretty hard, that we really have created these silos. And I always tell our teams not to diminish the great work, that was right at the time to have those silos. It was right to have the digital silo that needed to kind of grow and learn on its own. But that time it has to change slightly, right? We've got to rethink that now. But one of the things that I've learned is while they're out in the field, there's still a lot of disconnect between the journalism and then the technology that it takes to get the journalism to our audience. That's probably been, I don't think I realized how challenging that was as an end-to-end. There's a lot of fits and starts in it, right? There's a lot of areas where, if you're looking at it, that workflow for the very first time, you'd go, why'd you do that? Well, and there's a reason, right? Well, we used to do it this way, and then we had this, and then we started doing that, and now we do this. But the reality is, if you're looking at it for the first time, it's pretty, I use this word all the time, it's pretty janky, right? Our workflow is pretty janky. That was probably the biggest aha moment. And again, not because we don't have incredible journalists or incredible engineers, but it's literally because this machine is running at all times, and the machine rarely stops so that you can rethink the machine. Well, we decided we have to stop and rethink the machine, right? We can let them keep going, but we've got to stop and figure out, is this the most efficient way for these people to do it today if we started today? So we talk a lot about, if we did it today, is this how we'd do it? And the answer is almost always no.
And Michael, as you thought about breaking that machine, what did that translate to?
I mean, first and foremost, right? Fragmentation isn't scalable, right? If we had 3 different people covering the same story, it meant that we had 3 times as much effort going forward for any individual piece of it. So we have to figure out, okay, who's the expert, and how can we multiply that to be able to go out to every platform as it's going forward. I think that in a big way, right? None of us really think about, like, okay, what's the first process, and how do we reduce the steps to go from there, right? And I think that you go into our newsroom today, and it's amazing how many people are sitting at desks inside the newsroom who are taking the content from the field and turning it around to put it then onto these various platforms. I think that that's the piece of the puzzle where it's like, oh, okay, how can we make their jobs easier? Because they are also some of the most stressed out individuals. They're the ones who are searching for the content in the archives that haven't been properly categorized. They're the ones who are trying to communicate with everyone in the field, who are trying to think of what's the strategy for this on digital. Oh shoot, is there a social tease on this? Those are the kinds of jobs that are really stressful and are really necessary cogs for the newsrooms to be done. And so how do we make that easier? And that's technology, right? The technology can do everything I just said there. It can do every one of those pieces and make that person's job easier, so they can spend less time focused on the computer screen and opening up 5 different browser windows to get things published on the 5 different places. Instead, they can actually then communicate with the teams on the field and get that published in a single way. And so that's really the primary focus is how do we take that kind of swivel chair work and make it focused on the mission, which is getting that story to our people at the end of the tunnel. Be that tunnel be YouTube or CTV or OTT or websites or broadcast news.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's an element of the joy having been taken out through this process of storytelling? When I look at TikTok, and I think about the workflow of creating those videos and posting them, it's quick. There isn't all these handoffs. You can do amazing things. And if you look at that content, it's rich, it's engaging, it's local. And I think it reflects the joy that simple software experience brings to the storyteller. And I do wonder if as an industry, we've got so many steps along the way that it's kind of pulled out the heart of the ethos of why we're here, or why in the first place we love to tell those stories.
Yeah, and I think the process and the technology at the time kind of forced that. Recently, we had a person come to our newsroom, join our newsroom, and she was previously a YouTube content creator, and she came in and she was like, it was so hard for me. I would shoot my story and I would, get everything together, and then I would hand it to an editor, and it made me so sad because I was like, well, that's my story, right? That's my baby. And so, yeah, I think at the time, however, that is again with the silos, right? There was at the time an editor was the only one who knew how to run that hardware, and so that person had to do that. And so, but where we have to get honest with ourselves now and realize that we are at the point where we don't have to have the levels of specialization because the technology has allowed us not to. It's allowed us, pretty much any user, teenagers, right? Anyone can grab it and kind of tell their story and get the passion across in their story. So I do think that some of those workflows that we've developed over time out of necessity, it's time to rethink them.
I've really enjoyed over the last year. I've been going around and giving people permission to use AI. And as somebody who started in the digital space and those kinds of things, there are very few technologies that I've been able to roll out organizationally wide where I don't immediately meet backlash or people pushing back and those kinds of things. What's been really exciting is to see people, initially, they're a little bit nervous about it, but as soon as you're like, okay, just use it for a little bit, seeing how it is able to make their jobs easier or allow them to do more and more quickly. Those are the types of tools that I think I'm really excited to roll out. And I would say that on the TikTok production side, right now it does feel like extra work for people, but when people actually start getting it, they actually get excited because they do feel like they're doing the hot new trends and they're telling their stories in a way that is new and different and fresh, and it's not the same story, and that's what they're seeing, and that's what their kids are seeing, and those kinds of things. And that level of excitement is something I want to lean into because I think everyone knows what a good story looks like and what they like to watch on their own personal time. And if they can do that, and if they can do it using tools that we can provide in our newsroom and AI tools, all the better. Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think, the slide talks about having to tear it all down, and AI can be seen in the first step as something that's a threatening move. But what we're hearing more and more of, whether it's at the Washington Post or with our customers, is excitement about the potential of what it can do. As we look forward, we think of TikTok and we think of the potential for AI to truly deliver on something we call hyper-personalization. And that's where we take the core ethos of a story, that thing that gets people excited to get the nuggets that go into it, but then use AI to hyper-personalize it so that every story, every consumer across every modality gets a unique experience. And that doesn't just sit into the storytelling itself, it also goes into the business model. How can hyper-personalization enable us to have higher revenue streams through subscriptions or advertising? And I think, Stephanie, there's some metrics on that you all have come across.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing a tremendous amount of research with our audiences, and because of what they're used to in social media and online, 40% of our respondents said that the ads felt generic and out of touch. right? So because we're going from a broadcast world where we're just saying, hey, everyone could use toothpaste, to a personalization world that they're used to now. It's not just new. For many of them, they've grown up with personalized ads the entire time. And so the ability to have personalized ads longer term is extremely valuable.
Mm-hmm. I know we didn't talk about it beforehand, but if you do think about your advertising revenue, what portion of it do you think actually is personalized and tailored to who's receiving it?
Currently, well, it's funny. I think a lot of our advertisers would say all of it, right? Because they would put a, well, it's adults 25-54 or whatever. And I think all of our advertisers make take a stab at personalizing. But I think just by nature of the bulk of what we sell, the bulk of our revenue is broadcast, then most of it is not.
Yep.
Is not specific to the individual and what actions they've taken or who they are.
Michael, do you think that's a different story on your digital kind of online channels?
I would say that when you look at the way that the programmatic world is working right now, that personalization is so crucial to the brands as they're going forward. And when you look at what the biggest complaints that people get is, I keep seeing the same thing over and it really disrupts me. Mm-hmm. And so absolutely, I think that this is still a problem and something that we need to provide that personalized experience that they're so used to receiving right now on the big, walled gardens. Mm-hmm. And I think that everyone feels that Facebook is listening to us all the time. And I think that's both really creepy, but also really a piece of how well Facebook knows you. Mm-hmm. That's what marketers are looking for to a certain degree. We don't have to be creepy like that. I don't want people thinking that we're listening to them all the time. But we should be able to give them a local experience and provide them with a local advertiser who is actually relevant to what they're trying to do. And I would say that younger audiences more and more expect that when they are seeing an advertisement. So that's really, and I think that plays into the content conversation considerably. We need to know what that content is as it's being produced, so that way the relevant ad conversation can happen at the same time. Same way as TikTok, right? If you're watching something about home improvement and getting a flooring ad the next day, totally normal, right? We should be doing that as well, where we're providing people how do you fix up your house in Florida. We should be then following that up with a relevant advertisement, and that advertisement's valuable for both the consumer and also the person on the other end.
I think that's a good point. It's not just value to our businesses as media entities, but also delivering value to that audience.
Yeah.
So we kind of keep going back and forth between the vision, where we're trying to head some of these observations, and the practical reality. So we're going to go back again to that workflow question. What does this rebuilt newsroom look like in practice?
Like that.
Yeah, like that. It really does. I think the biggest piece, the beginning piece, is a decision that you're going to make a change, right? So a decision that we're going to look at the story first, and we're going to support the story, our journalists, with a story first technology, because we've looked back at a lot of the innovations and things that we've done, and we haven't really. We've told our employees they need to do something different, and we tell them how to do it, and we tell them what it is, but we really don't give them the technology to do it. We don't give them the full end-to-end stack to make it happen. And so it's messy, and I think a lot of it is making sure you get as many people as you can along with you to understand that, understand what their challenges are, what their needs are, but also have them be the architect of the future, right, of what the future looks like. And we're very proud to bring our people along with us, because we're a relatively small company in number of stations. We have 7 TV stations in 6 markets, but they're large markets, so there's a lot of risk and involved if we make a big mistake. So making sure that we've got as many people as we can going with us, but there's a lot that goes to it. There's a lot of contracts, right? We've got contracts with some of our current vendors that have to be looked at. We've got time horizon. We've got capital investments that have been made that we have to determine if those are going to continue. So there's a lot of that slide that goes into it.
the decision first and foremost to make it story-centric I feel like has been made at the newsroom level at the current moment. The news teams are doing their best at trying to tell this story and tell it in a way that works on all platforms, and change the way that they, to reach their audience more effectively. And that's been one heck of an experience, and it's something we're still working on. But it became so painfully clear when we went out in the field with these teams that the technology was not keeping up, that the technology wasn't facilitating that process at all. And so arming these teams with mobile devices, arming these teams with technology where they can actually track where people are, where they are in the story, and where all that content lives. And then, something that feels a little strange is we're really good at doing linear broadcasting from in the field. But how do we do multi-purpose broadcasting from on the field? These are all big questions that require big, real focus on okay, this technology kind of needs to be redone completely, and we have to find where those elements are that are going to have the largest impact, really to empower those people in the field or empower those people who are back at the station to be able to do this more quickly and easily.
We made a rookie mistake about a year ago. We kind of built what the employee side, the human side of this newsroom would look like, right? If you were going to focus story-centric, and which basically the idea is, this is my story, and I govern, as if this is my story, I govern the distribution of all of this, right? Whether it's television, streaming, digital, whatever platform it has, I govern the distribution of that entire story. And so we kind of realigned our newsroom roles to support that. And then we, yay, pat ourselves on the back because we did it, and everyone got through it, and it was so awesome. And then we realized, wait a minute, the technology doesn't do that. The people are trying their best, but the technology wasn't doing that. And so we went and realized that they were still saying, okay, here's my story, I got it, it's amazing, I did it in a unique fashion, I got it ready for broadcast. And then the question was, okay, well, what about the digital distribution of it? Well, I give that to those guys because I don't know digital. Right? And so it was this big realization that 15 years ago, you did have to know digital, meaning you did have to learn digital. Even when you look at the movement of like a CMS. A CMS used to be insanely complicated, and you had to be a digital expert to run a CMS. Well, it's not now. It's not insanely complicated because the technology has allowed you to make it much easier to use, much faster, so that you don't have to be a full-on digital expert. And so that was our big realization, that the technology has come so far, all of these elements have come so far, and I have this thing I say all the time, I want it to be Fisher-Price. I want it to be like the user walks up to it and they know what they need to do and they mash a button and they put all of their good work into it, mash a button, and it distributes. So that's a piece of it that we're now realizing has to be re-racked, because the technology still supports that there has to be this digital team because they have specific knowledge that you as a broadcast team member could never have. And that's just not the case.
So in order for it to be Fisher-Price, because I hear that like on a daily basis.
I think
right?
so, yeah.
In order for it to be Fisher-Price, the technology on the back end needs to be best of class, first of all, but it also needs to be, we need to be able to stack it on top of each other. Mm-hmm. We need to have partners who can work on a common language, a common ground, who can be accessed from anywhere. Like, how do you upload stuff quickly if it's all coming back to the station and you only have one pipe going into a station? Things like that are crucial for our partners to hear on a regular basis. Is we need to be able to build the best blocks in order to make the tallest tower that we can. And so when I'm looking at partners and when we're considering what's going on right now, is I look at somebody like ArcXP, right? And this is the thing about Arc, is we can actually have our entire editorial flow through ArcXP, which is the digital silo that we had. but we can also then find at any point, we can actually publish directly into it and fit it into another editorial flow, which is insanely helpful. If we want to tack AI tools on top of that, we can do that at any point inside that system, which is so helpful. And you guys have a great vision of AI on all of that too. That's a piece, and that's a real lesson that we've learned from our partnership with ARC, that we need across every element of our broadcast industry, and we don't have that with a lot of our partners right now, particularly not the partners that are requiring capital investments and who live within our firewalls inside of our TV stations. We need to be looking more and more how are their blocks? How are they blocks that we can actually build a solid foundation on, integrate these AI tools, because you better believe the AI tool today is not going to look like the AI tool tomorrow. And so we need to be able to build those, we need to be able to swap out that block in the future and do that quickly and easily. And I've really pounded this analogy into the ground. So,
Well, I'll take the compliment, Michael, but I'll also recognize that despite ARC's modularity and overall industry having better UX patterns, API, we've got a lot of lessons to take from the cloud providers and other world of SaaS that improves our broadcast workflows. But I'm not satisfied as the head of technology and product for ARC that we're anywhere we need to be in that multi-format world. And kind of the second observation we've taken from the industry is that if you are a single modality media company today, your life isn't that long. Whether that modality is broadcast or it's social or just paper, we still have clients there, like that shelf life is getting short. And predictions obviously are always difficult to make in terms of duration, but we hear this again and again and again. And I've heard it today in our conversations out in the hall today at NAB. So that format diversity is no longer a nice to have. And that is not only the editorial workflows, but us as technology providers, we have to really get in gear on this front. So, in terms of change, we talked a little bit about the mindset. We got a little bit of time left here. Any comments you wanted to add here, Michael?
I mean, I think that the most important thing is, we've talked about AI a little bit here, and I think that AI is a tool that really augments what we're trying to do. It's not going to replace the jobs, but it is going to make the jobs a lot easier as we're going forward, as we're doing this transformation. I think that we have really prime examples of being able to take a broadcast news product and version it to be able to fit better based on our learnings and our training of the AI model, fit better on the digital platform. To recommend social media tactics and marketing tactics, we're able to use those tools to enhance our brand marketing on a regular basis. And quite frankly, I don't think I'm talking for out of turn here, but I think 87%, I found this statistic, are reporting that AI actually helps boost their productivity inside the newsroom without loss of creative value. And I think that not losing the creative value is the most important piece. We're asking our people to do more every single day, and it's not always a breaking news thing that we're really good at, and we can all live on adrenaline. In fact, that would be really bad for everyone if we're living on adrenaline all the time. But if we can use AI to replace the adrenaline-driven breaking news story for our day-to-day stories, I think that could be a real benefit for us.
Makes sense, and I think that partnership with your community, your partnership with your team, but also partnership with technology vendors like ourselves. And so when we look at the overall value proposition of ARC, we do many things from technology, editorial workflows, to personal experiences. But the story I wanted to share, I think it's helpful for the industry, is around this media expertise and partnership. And it's a personal story. Because when I came to the Washington Post just over 3 years ago, Michael did something that not many people would. He told me the truth. He told me the truth that we were falling short of what we should be doing. He said we were letting him down. We were chasing ideas and video workflows, but the future wasn't clear, you weren't clear on your strategy, and we were just in this vicious cycle that wasn't the right partnership. And you asked us to reset and focus on the core. And it was so exciting for me last year at NAB when you recognized we'd done that. And by focusing on the core, it enabled us to go into AI and get those into your newsrooms and get the benefit. So I think it's important for all of us, and this was true yesterday at the Devoncroft Summit. A lot of the CEOs were talking about resetting their partnership with the industry and going from a world where the major media vendors in this space weren't really doing justice to their customers and having that honest conversation. So I wanted to thank you for that, Michael, and giving us a chance to really get it right. And when I think of Grand Media Group today, like you're a leading customer for ARC.
Thank you.
So that's a little bit on partnership. And so tell me a little bit more about what makes a good partner from your perspective. From us, it's that honesty, it's pushing us to do better, it's giving us the opportunity to show that we can help your business goals. What do you look for the partners that you would meet with here at NAB?
Joe, I appreciate the honesty and kind of sharing some dirty laundry from years ago, but genuinely, I think that our business is changing, and I think as people who are digital, who grew up in this industry as on the digital side, we always knew that the technology was shifting and moving and those kinds of things. But that isn't necessarily the case with the legacy media. And I think that it's actually really stressful coming from the digital side where it's always been changing, and all of a sudden seeing the core business having very similar. I was working in newspapers in 2006, in a really weird way, it feels familiar where all of a sudden, oh shoot, that also has to change in a big way. And so having partners who can recognize the fact that the way we did this a year ago, 6 months ago, is no longer the way we can continue to do that. I think that's the most important thing in my mind is they're constantly evolving, they're constantly understanding that their product roadmap needs to adjust with the times that's going on. We talked very early on about audience pressures, listening to our local community, realizing that we're not meeting our local community's, expectations. We have economic challenges on top of that. We've got business climate changes, and we've got new technology. All four of those things are massive disruptors. Individually, they'd be a big disruptor, but it's happening across all four of those places, and we need partnerships who are going to understand that's going to change how they integrate with us. And so we need them to be Fisher-Price blocks in a big way. They need to be the best partner possible that can fill that role in the tower that we're building, which is local community journalism. It's not hard having live breaking news, filling out a story filling out a newscast at the last minute and going live to 5 different places in the field, telling the most recent weather information in a way that makes sense for our local communities. None of that is easy, and so our partners, their number one goal should be making it easier to do those things on all the different platforms, and so that's really what we're looking for. We can't build what we're looking for on a broken system.
And we're lucky to have such a huge ecosystem here, so hopefully some people in the audience are hearing that call to action and maybe through the curtains. But jumping back into AI, what actually is happening in practice to unify your newsroom? I think, Stephanie, you've got some improvements to talk to.
It's been really exciting over the last year and a half watching our newsrooms respond to AI, because originally it was, oh no, this is scary, it's gonna take away my job, which I think is the natural when you look at it as a whole, but these are some of the things that we've done. And really, Michael's done a wonderful job getting this through our organization. Like he said, giving people the blessing to use AI as opposed to using it in a corner. But versioning content has been big for us. So that means versioning it on different platforms for different for something that works on television, rewriting it a little bit differently so it also works on the internet on our website. Fact-checking and bias checking, transcribing and categorizing video has been a massive time savings. We used to have humans do that. This is one that we really encourage, help ideate stories, right? Our journalists are out listening to the community, figure out what some ideas, just kick around with themselves ideas. Teleprompters, tracking talent, kickstart engagement with our communities. There's been so many things that AI, and this is a small list, I'm sure, of the actual things that the journalists have used it for, but it has been truly transformational for us. And I'm so excited to see as it speeds up what else they do with it.
There's just a lot of conversation about human in the loop, so to speak.
Yes,
And
yes.
so one of our observations is, a lot of newsrooms are kind of hanging on to this a bit. And I can't differentiate between if it's a change program to get our teams comfortable with it. But I think if we're really honest with ourselves, we're hearing that that is a temporary view. And that balance between humans in the loop versus how much AI is contributing to that, our industry kind of requires that we get those efficiencies while not losing the heart and soul of the story. So I think that's really exciting to play out, and I think we actually have a video, a little bit about your tooling here.
No, go for it.
And I want to say that actually was a video built for our internal teams, specifically to help them understand that this is sanctioned, right? You don't have to do AI in the corner. We actually want you to use this, and we're excited that you're using it. So we sent that out to all of our journalists so they understood what value existed for them.
And Michael, what was the reaction when that video went out internally?
I was just looking at the metrics of Spark. We have over a quarter of everyone, so this includes executives, salespeople, photographers, everyone in the company. A quarter of them are actively logging into Spark on a monthly basis. Of that, we're having, I want to say, 50,000 conversations in the last 30 days. People are using this tool, and to a person, I have not heard anyone come back to me and tell me that it has not been saving them time. One of the best stories I've got right now is we've given people the ability to build their own apps inside of Spark, and did a little bit of training around it. We had one person go out and create an SEO headline tool. And so we were going back and looking at the metrics, and all of a sudden, the most popular application that we could find was an SEO headline tool that we had no idea even existed at the corporate side. It was it was created by somebody in San Antonio and then adopted across the entire organization without us even needing to do anything. So it's been really exciting. It's still very early days. We have so much more to do on it. So this is just the start for us.
I think that's a credit to the approach you've taken to lead this change from a human perspective, the audience perspective, the business perspective. Yeah. And as we close out, I'm interested what advice you would give to those starting their transformation.
Yeah, mine would be involve as many of the journalists as you can, because a lot of the things that I set out to solve, I've adjusted those once I got in the field and really saw some of the challenges that they were showing me. The big vision is still there, but it's kind of evolved that. So I would say get feedback, get as much feedback as you can. And then be honest about what's broken. Like we have to be, we say it all the time, there's no sacred cows, right? We have to be honest about something that's not working. We don't need to blame anybody about why it's not working, but we really have to be honest about what's working. And then I will always say, do the transformation you need to do, but then always check it, make sure it's happening, because boy, we've done that a number of times, right? You think it's happening and they're doing it. Yeah, we did it, we solved it, and then they're not. So stick with them and get that continuous feedback loop. Michael?
For me, the most important thing is we've got these great tools, but you can't build on top of a broken workflow. If you can't integrate these AI tools, no amount of AI tools are going to be adopted widely with copy and paste workflows, right? Like they've got to be integrated into the systems, and so we need systems that are built, workflows that are built where we can integrate these tools to make it quicker and easier for people. AI can't patch broken systems; it just can't. It can help you fix them, and then I think the most important thing for me is you can't have a modern newsroom if there are still workflows from 1995 in place. 1995 was a totally different world than it is today, and what we need to be doing is totally different than what it was then. And the number of workflows that we've uncovered that come from about that decade is more than you would expect.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's spot on advice, and I'll leave some closing thoughts here about what we're hearing from you all, from the rest of the market. So we talked about if your content can be replaced by AI, your business model's in danger. If a single format business is what you're focused on, that's obsolete, and multimedia really is the new baseline. Audience is becoming a one-to-one relationship, that personalization, as opposed to the broadcast, literally you send the same thing to every single user. That editorial and business teams must unite. I think that's a key moment for us timing-wise. And I would add on to that, technology and partner teams also need to come together.
Yes.
So these are some of the kind of the 4 or 5 key areas where, as we seek to get the benefits of human in the loop, and take perhaps the temporary state today to a future state that's really right for us all and right for storytellers. So I appreciate you being up here with us today, and the audience for spending some time together in this conversation. ARC's going to be doing a session tomorrow, a little bit more deep dive on our AI tools, and I really want to appreciate the time you've all taken with us.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. All right.